Did you know there's a lake in Oregon so deep it holds more water than most states can dream of? Or that one of the world's largest living organisms lives beneath the forest floor? How about the fact that you'll find the tiniest official park in the US tucked into a Portland median? Well, the Beaver State hides dozens of geography surprises you've never heard of. 50 Oregon geography facts you never knew isn't just trivia. It's a story of fire, collapse, and survival. But what really forged these giants, and what secrets still lurk beneath their surface? Crater Lake swallows light and sound in a blue so deep it could hide 2 Empire State Buildings stacked end to end. Measured at 1,943 feet from surface to caldera floor, it is the deepest lake in the United States, and the 3rd deepest by mean depth on Earth. Early explorers tried to plumb its secrets with piano wire and lead weights, but only modern sonar revealed the full extent of the abyss. The lake's basin is a collapsed volcano, a caldera 7 miles wide, formed in a single explosive event nearly 7,700 years ago. Today, a volcanic cone called Wizard Island rises 755 feet above the water, built from eruptions that followed the collapse. Oregon's vertical drama doesn't stop at the lake's edge. Mount Hood towers over the northern horizon, its glacier-capped summit reaching 11,245 feet. This is the highest point in the state, a restless volcano that scientists watch with a careful eye. Its snowy flanks feed rivers that cut through the land, shaping valleys and forests below. Then the ground falls away. Hell's Canyon slices into the earth along the eastern border, a gorge so deep that nearly 5 Eiffel Towers could be stacked between river and rim. At its greatest depth, the canyon drops more than 7,900 feet from the rim to the Snake River, outstripping even the Grand Canyon. Steep basalt walls hold the memory of ancient lava flows, while the river at the bottom runs wild and cold. These are Oregon's depths and heights, extremes measured not just in feet, but in stories of fire, water, and time. In the next segment, a volcanologist prepares to lower a sensor into the caldera, chasing new data from the lake's hidden floor. What lies beneath the surface of Oregon's greatest records is more than numbers. It's a living landscape, still shifting and revealing new secrets. A line of fire runs north to south through Oregon, a volcanic backbone built by forces deep beneath the Pacific. The Cascade Range exists because the Juan de Fuca Plate, a slab of ocean crust, dives under North America at a rate of about 1.5 inches per year. Each inch brings friction, heat, and eventually molten rock forced upward. Over millions of years, this relentless process built a chain of volcanoes: Mount Hood, Mount Jefferson, the Three Sisters, each peak a monument to the ongoing collision of continents and ocean floor. But the story of Oregon's bedrock is even more dramatic than a row of volcanic summits. Between 14 and 16 million years ago, cracks opened in what is now eastern Oregon, unleashing lava floods on a scale almost unimaginable. These basalt flows did not just cover valleys, they filled them, layer after layer, until the landscape rose hundreds of feet. The largest single flow carried enough molten rock to fill Lake Erie, spreading across thousands of square miles in a matter of weeks. When the lava cooled, it formed the columned cliffs that now line the Columbia River Gorge and the walls of Hell's Canyon. The result is a state with a 2-part skeleton, a volcanic spine running north to south, and a vast basalt blanket stretching east. This igneous foundation explains Oregon's extremes, from the sharp relief of the Cascades to the high desert plateaus beyond. Even now, the ground is restless. The same subduction zone that built the mountain still threatens with earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Scientists at the USGS Cascade Volcano Observatory monitor every tremor and gas plume, knowing that the next eruption could come with little warning. For them, Oregon's fiery framework is not just ancient history, it is a living hazard and a promise that the land is never truly at rest. Moisture-laden winds sweep inland from the Pacific Ocean, carrying the promise of rain. But as these clouds reach the western slopes of the Cascade Range, they are forced up, cooling rapidly as they rise. The air cannot hold as much moisture at lower temperatures, so the clouds let go, dropping torrents of rain and snow on the windward side. Some peaks in the Coast and Cascade Ranges collect more than 200 inches of precipitation each year. Forests here grow thick and green, fed by this constant supply of water. Rain shadow. At the crest, everything changes. The air, now stripped of most of its moisture, spills down the eastern slopes. As it descends, it warms and dries even further, leaving little for the land below. In some parts of Oregon's high desert, annual rainfall barely reaches 8 inches. The difference is stark. On one side, ferns and Douglas firs reach for the sky. On the other, sagebrush and dust stretch for miles. This invisible wall, the rain shadow, splits Oregon almost in two, shaping not just ecosystems, but lives and livelihoods. Temperature follows the same divide. The coast and western valleys enjoy a mild maritime climate, where winter rarely brings snow and summer heat is tempered by ocean breezes. East of the Cascades, the story is different. Here, the climate swings from scorching summers with temperatures soaring above 100 degrees to winters that can plunge well below 0 degrees. The land is open, the sky vast, and the wind carries the memory of distant storms that never quite arrive. Daily reality. For ranchers east of the mountains, the rain shadow is more than a scientific term. It is a daily reality. One Harney County rancher keeps a battered rain gauge nailed to a fence post. Some years, he says, all the rain that falls barely fills a coffee can. When storms sweep in from the west and stall against the mountains, he watches the clouds drift by, knowing his pastures may go months without a drop. In these drylands, every inch of precipitation counts. Wells run deep, and cattle range far in search of grass that can survive the long dry spells. Two Oregons. The Cascades do not just block rain, they create two distinct Oregons. To the west, cities and farms thrive on reliable water. To the east, survival depends on adaptation, irrigation, drought-resistant crops, and a culture built around scarcity. This sharp contrast, written into the climate by the physics of orographic lift, explains why the state's population and economy hug the green side of the mountains, while the east remains a land of wide-open spaces and frontier resilience. Visible from space. The rain shadow boundary is visible from space, but its impact is felt in every community, from the lush Willamette Valley to the sagebrush sea beyond the Cascades. Beyond the rain shadow, the land heaves upward in a series of bold, fractured ranges and broad rolling plateaus. 9 distinct regions carve Oregon's interior, each shaped by the restless movement of the Earth's crust. Among them, Steen's Mountain stands as a monument to tectonic drama. Its summit, 9,733 feet above sea level, rises more than 5,000 feet in a single unbroken sweep from the flat expanse of the Alvord Valley. This is not a gentle slope, but a fault-block escarpment, where the crust has cracked and tilted, leaving one face sheer and abrupt, the other sloping away for miles. The result is a wall of stone that dominates the southeastern horizon, visible for 100 miles on a clear day. The mechanics behind these mountains are as stark as the landscape itself. When the Earth's crust stretches and thins, it fractures into massive blocks. Some blocks drop, becoming basins. Others are thrust upward, creating the dramatic relief seen at Steen's, Abert Rim, and the Warner Mountains. Southeastern Oregon is a patchwork of these tilted ranges and wide, high basins, a classic basin and range province. The pattern repeats across the region. Sharp, steep faces on one side, gradual slopes on the other, each range separated by a sea of sagebrush and dust. To the northeast, the Blue and Wallowa Mountains rise in a different kind of grandeur. Here, Rock Creek Butte reaches 9,105 feet, the highest point in a highland country marked by ancient faulting and later sculpted by glaciers. The ridges and cirques of these mountains hold the memory of ice ages, with valleys carved deep and meadows perched high above the plains. These highlands, though less abrupt than Steaton's, still form a formidable barrier, one that shaped travel routes, weather patterns, and the boundaries of human settlement. Between these mountain walls lies Oregon's high desert plateau, a vast level expanse stretching 150 miles across. The land here is deceptively flat, broken only by scattered buttes and low ridges. In summer, heat shimmers above the sage. And in winter, the wind cuts across a landscape that feels almost empty. Yet, this is ranch country, fields of wheat on the Deschutes Umatilla Plateau, cattle grazing in the shadow of distant ranges. Isolation is a way of life. One rancher in Harney County rides fence lines that stretch for 30 miles, seeing no other human for days at a time. Supplies come in by truck or mule, and stories of blizzards or drought are passed down like family heirlooms. In some valleys, fewer than 2 people live per square mile, a frontier measured not just in distance, but in silence. This interior geography, rising ranges, high plateaus, and deep basins, sets the stage for everything that follows. Rivers flow here without ever reaching the sea, lost to evaporation or seepage in the dry desert air. The land's vertical extremes dictate where water pools, where crops can grow, and how people survive in a place defined by both abundance and scarcity. Each region, from the glaciated heights of the Wallowas to the stark uplift of Steens Mountain, adds a new chapter to the story of Oregon's ever-changing face. Water in Oregon is a force that divides, collects, and sometimes vanishes altogether. In the southeast, the Alvord Desert stretches as a wide, flat basin, its floor marked by the ghostly white of a playa. Here, rain that falls has nowhere to go. The rivers that do exist are trapped within closed basins, their journey ending in shallow alkaline lakes or evaporating into thin air. These ephemeral lakes like Alvord, Abert, and Summer fill with water only in wet years, then retreat, leaving behind mudflats streaked with salt and mineral. The land is shaped by scarcity. Sagebrush dominates, roots reaching deep for whatever moisture remains. Ranchers in these basins talk of seasons when the lakes disappear entirely, their cattle grazing on the hardpan where water once shimmered in the sun. Yet just 200 miles to the west, the story flips. The Willamette Valley unfurls as a broad green ribbon, 200 miles long, 30 miles wide, hemmed in by the Coast Range and the Cascades. This is Oregon's agricultural heartland, a plain built from the debris of ancient cataclysms. 15,000 years ago, the Missoula floods swept through, carrying silt and rich volcanic soil from Montana and Washington. When the waters finally receded, they left behind a layer of fertile earth up to 40 feet thick. Today, that legacy feeds fields of berries, orchards, and vineyards. The valley's rivers, unlike those of the high desert, flow freely to the sea, their banks lined with cottonwoods and willows. Nearly 3/4 of Oregon's population lives along this corridor, drawn by the promise of abundance. Between these extremes, the Rogue River carves its own path through the Klamath Mountains. Its clear, fast water slices across rugged terrain, connecting isolated valleys to the Pacific. For centuries, its corridor has served as a natural highway, first for the Takelma people, then for gold miners, loggers, and today, whitewater rafters and salmon returning to spawn. Oregon's geography is a study in contrasts. Basins where water is trapped and lost, valleys where ancient floods laid the groundwork for prosperity, and river corridors that sustain life and connect worlds. The land decides who thrives and who endures, a silent judge shaped by the memory of ice, fire, and water. The Columbia River Gorge cuts a 1-mile deep channel through the Cascade Range, a natural breach that has shaped Oregon's fate for thousands of years. Wind and water rush through this 6-mile wide corridor, carving basalt cliffs and forging a link between the Pacific and the inland Northwest. For centuries, this was the only practical way across the mountains. Salmon once led the way, followed by native traders carrying obsidian and dried fish to Celilo Falls. Later, engineers, railroad tycoons, and highway builders seized the route, laying tracks and pavement where the land allowed passage. But crossing Oregon is only part of the story. Surviving here means wrestling with a landscape where water is anything but fair. On the west side, rain soaks the forests. On the east, the high desert thirsts. The ratio is staggering. For every drop that falls on the sagebrush, 20 drench the coastal hills. This 20-to-1 water budget challenge has driven generations of engineering, canals, dams, and reservoirs stretching across the dry interior. Projects like the Owyhee and the Deschutes send water hundreds of miles, pumped and piped to fields that would otherwise be dust. Still, the divide remains. Water is currency, traded, argued over, and in dry years, fiercely protected. Where land meets sea, the Oregon dunes sprawl for 40 miles along the central coast, some rising higher than a 6-story building. These shifting sands form the largest coastal dunes in North America, shaped by wind and tide. The dunes have become both playground and battleground. Off-road vehicles race the crests, while biologists fence off nesting sites for the threatened snowy plover. Stewardship here is a tug-of-war between freedom and fragility, each side fighting for the future of the landscape. In downtown Portland, Millens Park, just 452 square inches, sits in a traffic median, officially recognized as the world's smallest park. It's a playful reminder that even in a state of vast extremes, there's space for whimsy. But not all changes are light. In 1957, the Dalles Dam closed, silencing Celilo Falls in hours. The river rose, drowning a fishing ground that had fed native peoples for over 11,000 years. Elders recall the songs, the protests, the moment the roar faded. The government paid $26 million, but no sum could replace the loss. Each year, gatherings on the riverbank remember what was taken and what endures. Oregon's fierce geographic contrasts still shape every choice, from wildfire response to water rights. As climate volatility deepens, droughts east, floods west, understanding these landforms isn't trivia, but survival. In a state defined by extremes, adaptation is written into the landscape itself. The terrain may not change, but how we live with it will decide Oregon's next chapter.